High school graduation. It's an American rite of passage, the end of childhood, gateway to the future. I thought I knew all about it from the many small-town ceremonies I'd attended, always as a bemused outsider. Then, suddenly, my son was one of those fresh-faced seniors about to put on a long black robe and prove that I didn't have a clue. 2 days before his graduation, my son and I argued. He had loped up the steps to the office where I work as a freelance journalist. I was struggling to write a story about 5 teenagers in a neighboring community, 3 of them to graduate the same evening as my son. A black cow wandered into the road where these 5 friends were rushing to their future. 2 were killed, the other seriously injured. In my effort to write a story with professional objectivity, I didn't at first smell the beer on my own son's breath. He was late to a senior class barbecue, and I was anxious for him to arrive to deliver the briquettes I had volunteered to provide. So when the waft of something cheaper than Corona finally hit me, I exploded in anger. We'd seldom argued, my son and I. As a 3-year-old, his strong will had forced me to step out the constraints of my own Quaker childhood, my own Quaker upbringing. He taught me the value of losing patience and the satisfaction of a righteous scream. That when he was in the 8th grade, and the testosterone newly coursing through his system was practically visible to the naked eye. It took a real effort to avoid being drawn into his circuitous flights of logic and to instead indulge in laughter at the ridiculousness of that miserable stage. But for most of our lives together, we had been pals, sharing hikes in our mountainous backyard and giddy escapes to the city, giggling over recorded duets and the escapades of our true blue neighbors. Now he was tipsy 2 days before his graduation, his valedictory speech an unopened file on an unused computer. A motherhood of anxieties paraded past me. Perhaps we've been wrong to raise this boy in a place with no McDonald's, no stoplights, and the closest movie theater a 50-mile round trip on treacherous mountain roads. We should have offered him friends who read books instead of boys who could call coyotes and fell snags for firewood. We deprived him of Cub Scouts, summer camp, junior high dancing lessons. Over the last few years, as I watched him carve out successive steps toward independence, I'd been meaning to tell my son that the day would come when he would resent us, perhaps for better reasons than the all-American impulse that led Huck Finn to escape down the Mississippi River on a raft and Holden Caulfield to flunk out of 3 prep schools. Glaring at him across my office desk, I assumed the moment had arrived. The barbecue was a tense affair. I watched the proud smiles of other parents as their seniors indulged in the last-minute childishness of knock-knock jokes. My son arrived long enough to prove that he had delivered the briquettes. So when he emerged from his room a short 48 hours later, black gown swirling around the purple cutoffs he'd promised not to wear, I was braced for another scene. We drove separately to the school. I took my place with my family and other parents, squirming against the cold of my folding metal chair as he marched with 25 classmates onto the football field under a rising moon. Then he caught me with his eyes. I was unprepared for the look, unprepared for the clarity, the naked blue that stripped away the arrogance of late adolescence. Gazing down on me for that split second was the soul of the nursing baby who graced me with his first smile, the tearful toddler who presented me with a broken wrist. This was my son, offering a second bonding in the last moment of his childhood. He held me with that look until I thought I would die in a euphoria of unconditional love. His speech was a tribute to his rural community and the protective, nurturing cushion it provided for each one of the children now leaving its nest. He spoke of a lifetime of small-town kindnesses, inspiring a misty-eyed standing ovation. Something mysterious had evolved between that beer-drenched barbecue and this ceremony. Something I'd been preparing for during my son's entire life, but had been helpless to anticipate. It happened without word, without thought, without me. The way a great horned owl surprised us by flying over this class of seniors as they tossed their mortarboards into the sky. Along with pride, this graduation brought humility, grace with inevitable change. By the time my son left for the traditional post-graduation party, the one the kids plan on a ranch after the sober graduation dance we parents plan at the Grange Hall, by then the mystery had faded, his gaze of clear and open wonder replaced by a wise-ass sparkle that I loved no less, but that came as no surprise.